Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're plunging into, well, one of humanity's most ancient and really profound questions, the existence of God.
Hmm.
It's a topic that's fueled, philosophical debate, art, scientific inquiry for literally millennia.
For ages.
And our mission in this deep dive is to explore some of the most compelling philosophical arguments,
Hmm.
the ones carefully constructed to maybe illuminate a divine reality.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And, we're not seeking proof like in a lab. It's more about examining this rich tapestry of arguments that thinkers across history have kind of woven together.
Right.
We'll be looking at how these ideas offer a coherent, often elegant explanation for the universe and our experience within it. It's about inviting us to consider what they make, well, truly comprehensible.
And we've certainly got a fascinating array of sources here covering cosmological, teleological, ontological, moral, even consciousness-based arguments. Lots to unpack. We'll unpack each, focusing on the core reasoning, the insights, and maybe how they connect to some, frankly, surprising observations about the world around us. So if you're ready to explore, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's begin right at the start. Arguments grappling with the universe's origin, its fundamental nature. This gets us to the cosmological argument, which basically asks, why is there something rather than nothing? A classic form comes from Thomas Aquinas, right? The unmoved mover and the first cause.
Yeah, Aquinas observed that, well, everything in motion is set in motion by something else, and everything caused has a cause.
Makes sense.
But he argued this chain can't just go on infinitely backwards. If it did, nothing would ever actually get started.
So there has to be a starting point.
Well, yes. But what's truly foundational here is that Aquinas wasn't just looking for the first link in a chain, like dominoes. He was looking for a cause that's different in kind.
Different in kind? How so?
He posited an uncaused cause, or an unmoved mover, something whose very nature is to exist. It's the ultimate explanation, not just another thing needing an explanation itself.
Okay.
This concept, it matures into what philosophers call a necessary being.
A necessary being? That sounds like a really powerful idea. What exactly does that mean for us, listening?
Think of it like this. A necessary being is one that simply cannot not exist. Its non-existence is, like, impossible to conceive. It exists in all possible realities, all possible worlds.
Right.
Philosopher Alvin Plantinga, for instance, he argues that if such a necessary being is even logically possible, that it must exist.
Wow. Okay.
And for Aquinas, this links profoundly to God's very essence being existence itself. So God isn't a thing that has existence as a property.
Oh, I see.
God is existence, the very ground of being, without which nothing else could possibly be.
So it's about finding that bedrock, that fundamental reality for everything else. It reminds me a bit of Maimonides.
The Jewish philosopher.
Yeah, he saw God not just as a first cause in a sequence, but as the, ultimate indispensable foundation. He basically argued that if God, this foundation, didn't exist, literally nothing else could.
Exactly. It's that foundational dependence. And then, building on this, we have the Kalam Cosmological Argument.
Okay.
It's been popularized more recently by William Lane Craig. And it's very direct. It kind of resonates with modern science, too.
How does that one work?
It's built on two really clear premises. First, whatever begins to exist has a cause.
Right. Seems obvious. Things don't just pop into being from nothing.
Exactly. It's deeply intuitive based on everything we observe. The second premise is that the universe began to exist.
Ah, the Big Bang idea.
Well, that's part of the sport, yes. Modern cosmology points to a beginning like the Big Bang. But there are also philosophical arguments against an actual infinite series of past events.
What do you mean, actual infinite?
Imagine trying to count down from infinity to reach zero today.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it right.
No, you'd never get there.
Right. Similarly, if the past were truly actually infinite, the present moment could never have arrived, because an infinite series of past moments would have had to be sort of traversed or completed to get here, which is impossible.
So it's like saying you can't logically finish an infinitely long task. So if the universe didn't have a beginning, we couldn't be here now.
Precisely.
Therefore, if the universe began and everything that begins needs a cause, then the universe must have a cause.
Exactly. And then, if you think carefully about what this cause must be like, just by analyzing the concept, it would need to be outside the universe. So timeless, changeless, immaterial, because it created space and time. Immensely powerful, obviously. And some argue personal. Because how else could a timeless cause choose to create a universe at a specific point initiating time. Only a personal agent with free will could make that choice.
Right, from a state of timelessness.
Yeah. So this cause provides a really profound explanation for why there's anything at all, rather than just, an eternal void.
That does make you really ponder the sheer isness of it all, doesn't it? It grounds everything.
It seeks that ultimate explanation.
Okay, so from the sheer fact of existence, let's pivot now. Let's look at the incredible order, the precision, the apparent purpose we see all around us.
The teleological arguments.
Yes, the design arguments. These suggest that the universe's, well, exquisite design points pretty directly to a designer.
And this isn't a new idea either. Ancient thinkers saw this very clearly. Socrates, for example.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He argued that the way human body parts are so intricately adapted, like our eyelids perfectly protecting our eyes, that couldn't just be chance. It pointed to wise planning.
Makes sense.
And Plato, he spoke of a demiurge.
Demiurge?
Yeah, kind of a divine craftsman or supreme intelligence. Not necessarily creating from nothing, but molding the pre-existing chaotic matter into the ordered, beautiful cosmos we see.
Interesting distinction. And then, of course, there's the really famous one, William Paley, the watchmaker analogy.
The classic. If you find a complex watch on a heath, you don't assume it just appeared randomly.
No way.
Its intricate parts, all working together for a purpose, compel you to infer a watchmaker. Paley argued that the complexity and utility in nature, the eye, ecological systems suggest a divine designer just as powerfully.
Right. But here's where it gets really compelling, I think. Modern science hasn't weakened this argument, has it? In some ways, it seems to have strengthened it.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the cosmic fine-tuning argument. This is just astounding.
Explain that one.
It's the observation that the physical constants of nature, things like gravity, the electromagnetic force, and the initial conditions of the universe are calibrated with almost unbelievable precision.
Like ridiculously precise.
Almost inconceivably so. They're set up so delicately that if you tweak them by even a tiny fraction, life as we know it, or really any complex structure, would be completely impossible.
I remember Stephen Hawking noting something about the expansion rate.
Yes. He said if the expansion rate right after the Big Bang was different by even one part in, like 100,000 million.
Wow.
The universe would have either collapsed back on itself immediately or expanded so fast that no stars or galaxies could ever form. It's an incredibly narrow window.
So the argument is?
The argument basically goes, if God exists, a universe that permits life isn't surprising, maybe even expected. But if God doesn't exist, achieving this fine-tuning by sheer chance is astronomically unlikely.
So the fact that we are here in a life-permitting universe
becomes really compelling evidence for a divine mind behind it all. Think about something like the hierarchy problem in physics.
I've heard of that, the Higgs mass.
Exactly. Well, the Higgs particle's mass is way, way lighter than our best theories predict it should be, unless there's this almost impossibly precise cancellation between different quantum effects.
Like balancing a pencil on its point?
Kind of, but on a cosmic scale. It makes physicists wonder if there's a deeper reason for this incredible precision, something beyond just random luck. It hints at intention.
So it's not just complexity, but this knife-edge balance that allows anything complex to exist at all. Okay. Now, what about irreducible complexity? That's often linked to intelligent design.
Right. Irreducible complexity suggests some biological systems are like a mousetrap.
How so?
A mousetrap has several parts: the base, the spring, the hammer, the catch. If you take away any one of those parts, it doesn't just work less well. It doesn't work at all.
Okay, I get it.
Proponents argue some biological systems, like maybe the bacterial flagellum or the blood clotting cascade, are similar. They have multiple interacting parts, and removing just one makes the whole system useless.
And the argument is that gradual evolution couldn't build that.
They argue it's hard to see how, because the intermediate steps before the whole system was functional wouldn't offer any survival advantage. So they contend it points towards a sudden integrated design event.
Interesting. And there's one more design-related idea about the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. This one always fascinates me.
Oh, it's profound. Think about it. Scientists like Peter Higgs use purely abstract mathematical equations.
Just math on a blackboard.
Exactly. And they predict the existence of fundamental particles, like the Higgs boson. Years later, experiments confirm it. How is math, something from our minds, so incredibly good at describing the deep structure of reality?
It is kind of weird when you think about it.
William Lane Craig argues this suggests more than just coincidence. It hints at a rational mind behind the language of nature, a cosmic consciousness whose thoughts are kind of reflected in the laws governing the universe.
It goes beyond specific examples to the very rationality of it all.
Yes, the very intelligibility of the cosmos.
It really does shift your perspective, thinking of the universe not as just random stuff happening, but perhaps as something intentionally crafted, a sort of masterpiece.
It invites that consideration, definitely.
Okay, so we've looked outwards at the cosmos. Now let's turn inwards. Arguments for God also come from our internal world, our minds, morality, even the concept of God itself.
Right, shifting focus.
Let's start with the ontological argument. This one can feel a bit mind-bending.
It definitely can. It's unique because it tries to show God exists just from the concept of God. Anselm of Canterbury first articulated it.
How did he frame it?
Anselm proposed defining God as that than which no greater can be conceived. The greatest possible being you can imagine.
Okay, the absolute peak.
Now he asks, is it greater to exist only as an idea in your mind, or to exist both in your mind and in reality?
Existing in reality seems greater.
Exactly. So if God is that than which no greater can be conceived, and existing in reality is greater than existing only in the mind, then God must exist in reality.
Because if God only existed in the mind,
then you could conceive of something greater, namely that same being existing in reality. But that contradicts the definition of God as the greatest conceivable being. So the very definition implies existence.
It's like the concept itself forces existence. Didn't Descartes have a similar idea?
He did. Descartes argued that just like the concept triangle necessarily includes having three sides, the concept supremely perfect being necessarily includes the perfection of existence. You can't think of a perfect being that lacks existence, just like you can't think of a triangle without three sides.
So the idea implies the reality.
That's the claim. Modern versions often frame these as modal arguments, dealing with possibility and necessity.
Modal.
Yeah. The sophisticated argument goes something like this. If God's existence is even logically possible, if the idea isn't contradictory like a married bachelor,
Okay.
and if God is defined as a necessary being, a being that cannot fail to exist if it's possible, then his existence isn't just possible, it's necessary. It follows logically.
Wow, that's a leap from possibility to reality based on the definition.
It is. It relies purely on conceptual analysis, which is why some find it tricky, but others find it incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's move into something maybe more grounded in experience, the moral argument. This one feels quite intuitive for many people.
It does. It usually starts with the observation or the conviction that there are objective moral facts and obligations, things that are truly right or wrong, not just based on opinion or culture.
Like, as you said, torturing an innocent child for fun is just wrong objectively.
Exactly. If you hold that belief, then this objective moral truth needs an explanation. Where does it come from? Hastings Rashdall argued that an objective moral law, which is fundamentally an idea or a standard, must ultimately exist in a mind. And for it to be universal and objective, it must exist in a perfect, infinite moral mind.
Which would be God.
That's the argument. God because the foundation, the source, the legislator of these universal moral truths. Without that foundation, it's argued, morality risks becoming just subjective preference or social convention.
That makes sense. Now, earlier we touched on design. What about evolution? Some people see that as purely random. But is random the whole story here?
That's a key point. Random in evolutionary biology doesn't mean uncaused or unguided in a philosophical or theological sense.
What does it mean then?
It just means that genetic mutations don't happen because an organism needs them. They happen by chance relative to the organism's needs.
Okay.
So, a God who set up the laws of nature and the initial conditions could absolutely use these random mutations as part of a larger guided process to achieve specific goals.
Like creating morally significant beings, humans.
Exactly. It allows for integrating the scientific account of evolution within a broader theological framework where our existence, our personhood, our moral awareness aren't just cosmic accidents, but intended outcomes.
That connects to Kant too, doesn't it? His moral argument.
Yes, Kant had a practical moral argument. He said we have a moral duty to strive for the highest good, a world where virtue and happiness perfectly align.
Sounds nice, but is it possible?
Well, Kant argued that if we have a duty to pursue it, it might be possible to achieve it. Ought implies can. But for it to be achievable, we need to assume the universe cooperates, that the causal laws ultimately align with morality.
And that requires...
Kant argued it requires postulating God's existence to guarantee that cosmic alignment, ensuring that virtue can eventually lead to proportionate happiness.
Fascinating. Okay, one last category. Arguments from consciousness. This gets into the deep mystery of our own subjective experience.
The hard problem, as some philosophers call it. How does purely physical stuff, neurons firing, chemicals reacting, give rise to the inner subjective feeling of being me?
Yeah, thoughts, feelings, self-awareness. How does that emerge from unconscious matter?
John Locke, way back, thought about his own inner world and concluded an eternal, most powerful, and most knowing being must exist. He just couldn't see how thought could ever arise if only unthinking matter and motion were eternal.
It seems like a huge leap.
It does. More recently, Richard Swinburne points out how difficult it is for purely scientific explanations to account for the correlation between specific brain states and specific conscious experiences. He suggests an immaterial substance, a soul or mind, something non-physical offers a more coherent explanation.
So not just how consciousness arises, but maybe what it is.
Yes, and also why it exists. Thinkers like Page argue that consciousness itself is much more probable, less surprising, if a God exists who intentionally brought it about.
Compared to it just emerging from a fundamentally mindless universe.
Exactly. The very fact of our awareness, our inner subjective life, our I, becomes another pointer towards an intentional conscious creator who values consciousness.
What an incredibly rich tapestry of ideas. The thought that our awareness, our morality, our ability to even think about perfection could all point back to a divine source.
Wow, that really shows how deep this dive can go.
It certainly covers a lot of ground.
Wow, what a journey through some truly profound and, frankly, enduring ideas. From that uncaused cause anchoring the universe,
the cosmological,
to the breathtaking fine-tuning allowing for life,
the teleological,
and then from our own built-in moral compass to the deep mystery of consciousness itself.
Moral and consciousness arguments, yeah. These arguments really invite us to consider a universe that might be imbued with meaning and purpose. It's definitely a shortcut to being well-informed on this huge, ancient question.
Absolutely. We've touched on the cosmological argument for an ultimate origin, the teleological for intelligent design, the ontological for a necessarily existing being, and these moral and consciousness arguments speaking to our inner world and maybe the fabric of reality itself.
Right.
Each offers a really unique lens, a different angle, to contemplate the possibility of God's existence.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It's really about weighing these sophisticated, interconnected ideas, seeing how they resonate with your own understanding of the world.
It's about considering the explanatory power they offer.
Exactly. And here's maybe a final thought for you to mull over. If the universe, in its fundamental structure, in the emergence of life and our own consciousness, if it provides such a rich tapestry of arguments pointing towards a divine reality, what might that imply? What kind of relationship might such a creator desire with the beings like us who are capable of contemplating these very questions?
A profound question to leave things on.
Think about that one until next time.